Welcome to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and during this series, I'll be interviewing various thought leaders, wellness experts, and humans on how they practice sustainable self-care and mindfulness. We'll get real and raw, talk about the light and the shadow side of self-care and mindfulness, and how we can actually stay centered amid the chaos and the hustle and bustle of our modern day world. So settle in and get centered. This podcast episode is brought to you by Centered in the City, a virtual on-demand self-care and mindfulness platform with over 200 different meditations, journaling prompts, nourishing recipes, and Pilates flows, all designed to support you feeling calm, focused, and energized as you live your life in this modern day world. For more information, head on over to centeredinthecity.org and claim your 7-day free trial. Welcome back to the Centered in the City podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Shirin Etessam, is here to talk about her new book, Free to Be, a 6-week guide to reclaiming your soul. In this conversation today, we talk about so many good things. Our hearts, our souls, what is play, what is spirituality. We detangle it so it's not this like woo-woo, mushy-gushy concept that's out there in our language. And Shirin really gives us some practical wisdoms and insights around clearing the clutter in our own minds and bodies so that we can connect to our soul. This is such a nourishing episode, so I welcome you to get comfy and let's get centered. Welcome to the Centered in the City podcast, Shirin.
Thank you for having me on your show.
I'd love to kick us off by having you share a practice that you do on a daily or daily-ish basis that supports you feeling centered, whatever centered means to you.
It's a really good question. So I have a daily exercise. I actually have daily, weekly exercises within the book at the end of each chapter, which is a chapter is a week each, and it's a 6-week process. So there are daily exercises within the week, but then there's a daily exercise that I have that I call the daily purge. And it's much like, I don't know if you read Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. She has the morning pages where you write 3 pages stream of thought. And what I noticed, and I did it religiously like 20 years ago, and what I noticed is that not everybody is into writing. Like that's not necessarily their outlet. It helps. I love doing it, but it could be doodling. It could be doing cartwheels. It could be dancing. It could be skipping. Whatever activity opens up your heart and mutes your brain as much as possible. So you could be dancing about and be like, I hate my to-do list. I can't stand the fact that I have to pay my electricity bill. I keep telling myself that I'm stupid and I know I'm not, whatever it is, just purging. And it doesn't even have to make sense. Like my sentences semi-made sense, but like it could just be word vomit, if I may say. And minimally 6 minutes to 10 minutes a day to just clear your slate for the day. And that to me has been huge. I also meditate, but I know that in the book, I talk about various forms of meditation because not all of it has to be like lotus position and oming. There's different ways of doing it. So I love walking meditations. I sometimes do swimming meditations when I can. Love swimming meditations. And truthfully, what it is being able to quiet my mind as much as possible. And I could talk about ways of doing that, but really reaching in to my inner core, like that inner star that the world can't touch. And that's what I call the soul, call it the seat of the soul. That is That's truly it. And when I am in that place, I feel very much at peace and very whole. So, and at this point, it's instantaneous. Like I could go there, I could be in the middle of traffic and I ohm it out, and I go into that place of, it's like connectedness and awareness without
Mm,
sounding too woo woo.
mm. I love how you articulated that of quieting the mind and going deep into the heart and deep into that place where you connect to your soul, where you connect to your inner knowingness. And obviously, you wrote this book, Free to Be, a 6-week guide to reclaiming your soul. So tell us a little bit about why it's important for us to do activities like the daily purge to get quiet and listen inwards.
There's many reasons, but I would say first and foremost, it's just quality of life. At some point in our early years, we hear a lot about disassociation. So between 0 and 7, some say 0 and 5, for whatever reason. I mean, you look at a baby, you look at a toddler, and they are so full of life and magic and uniqueness. They're not like trying to be like any other kid. They're just themselves and they are alive and they wake up and they're excited about the day. And somewhere in the first 5, 7 years, we disassociate, whether it's because we're scared, we want to feel like we belong, we don't feel worthy, whatever it is, we decide to disassociate with who we are, our inner core, and start grasping from the outside. And society just promotes it, right? You get the grades, you get the awards, you get, you're in the popular group and so forth. And that light that we are born with, that is uniquely ours, just diminishes. So the reclamation is truly a means of reclaiming who you are and living a life that is from the inside out. And I talk a lot about what that means. But truly, instead of grasping for things as we often do and competing and such, finding that place within ourselves that feels fulfilled, that feels whole, regardless of whatever is going on, and living from that place. And you imagine a planet doing that, be a very, very different world.
Yeah. Oof, I have chills because, one of my missions as a coach and within my Center in the City community is helping people take these pauses in their day to tune inwards because our gaze is so much, and it's trained, as you said, by accolades, by cultural shoulds, by our conditioning to look outwards. And when we just get quiet, when we take that pause to listen and feel and connect to ourselves, how much more intentional we can live outwards. And so I love your vision of like, what would it look like if all humans on this planet were able to do that? Like, yes, please, right? What a hopefully more peaceful planet we would be living and navigating. I'm curious, like, what signs do you feel like people should look for or notice when they're not connected to their soul? Because I feel like a lot of
Mm.
people are walking this planet thinking, I'm doing the things and I'm happy and I'm checking the boxes and I'm, striving in my career and things are working well. So I must be connected to my
Mm.
soul.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great question. I love doing these podcast interviews because you have me thinking, I just, and I, it's such a really, that's a really great question. And, I say that I know when my biggest marker really is, the guardrails is when I'm off track. That's when I know that I'm not in my flow. And flow is important because it's something that many can associate with flow, as in, musicians often say, I'm in my flow. Well, that is their soul singing. That is when everything aligns and They are just moving with it. So there's ways of, that's knowing that you are seated within your soul and living from it. When you feel that kind of flow, when you feel lost in creativity, when you feel present playing with your child and you're not thinking about anything, or you're cracking up with your partner over a stupid joke, you're there, you're connected, you're present. And it ends up being confusing because for many, many years, I would say a good decade, I was, well, toward the end, I call it my Walking Dead years, but I lived a very cushy life. Like we had a gorgeous home, uh, had the friends, had the titles, had the cars, had all of those things. And I felt dead inside, and I ignored it. I ignored it for a really long time, up until the time I couldn't ignore it anymore. And had a major breakup and fell into a massive abyss. And like, okay, well, now what? And rediscovering my soul, there is a feeling of wholeness. Like, I love my partner, I love my children, I love my community, my parents, family, but I don't feel that I need anyone. I don't need anyone in order to feel fulfilled. So any connectedness I have is a gift. It isn't a grasping. It is a coming together and connecting. And that is really huge. So you ask about signs. I would say that if you feel that you are grasping for something outside of yourself, and we often are, whether it is, an alcoholic drink, and I like my wine, or grasping for another person, or competing for a position, and all of those are frankly okay if it doesn't come from this space of need, like I'm going to get this thing in order to feel better. If you operate in the world, you wake up in the morning and you feel fulfilled and content, and then do all of these things, be with your partner, rocket your work and your position, go and buy the gorgeous car you want and all of that, but it isn't in order to fulfill something within you that is missing. And that's the crucial missing part that most people don't have. And why? Because we've disassociated, and we need to go back and reclaim our souls.
Yeah, right. Like how much we can get on the striving train and just keep wanting more and more and more, and thinking that is going to fulfill those places within us. I know a lot of people who go to shopping, right, or even trip planning, because we're looking for those big kind of dopamine hits to help us feel that sense of happiness. And so I'm curious, like, where would you recommend somebody begin? Obviously, it seems like it's mapped out in your book beautifully in the 6-week guide,
Yeah.
but where would you welcome people begin to even just connect to their soul?
So it's actually the reason I wrote the book was to make spirituality practical. So people say, follow your bliss or follow your heart, and follow your heart is a misnomer, which I could talk about, but follow your bliss, but nobody says how, right? And the issue is that most people don't even know where their soul is, right? So it isn't like, okay, follow your bliss. Well, where is it? What is it? What do I want? And it's this assumption that you know it and that you can somehow follow it. So the first part of the book is all about detoxing and decluttering. And I start with the brain, because that is our number one culprit, is our mind. Just chat, chat, chat. The Buddhists call it the monkey mind. I call it gremlins. they just love it. They just, they have, so 85% of our thoughts are negative, 95% or 80%, and 95% are repetitive. So the majority of our thoughts are negative and they repeat. And then we have content coming at us 24/7. And so you can imagine this kind of like, and a lot of that is negative, right? So it becomes like this washing machine of negativity, and we don't get out of it. So the first week is all about decluttering the mind. Then the second week is all about clearing the heart and taking care of the heart, and I could talk more about that. And the third week is cleansing, detoxing the body, and not necessarily in the ways that we often think, but redefining our relationship with our bodies as the only vessel that we have. Is I call it our Uber ride through life. So there's a relationship to be had, and we often don't have that and tend to abuse our bodies one way or another, whether it's through thought or what we do with it. So once those things are clear, and you actually have, I went to a retreat, and the leader of that retreat would say, clear your runway. If you are on a plane, there is no way that plane is going to take off or land if there's crap in the runway, right? So clear the runway so you can actually be able to see, be able to sense. Because if your soul, and most people's soul, is hidden way, way down and neglected for many, many years, they're not going to find it within, like just one Om session. So it's
Right.
in the process of that you get in touch with your true self, your inner star, and then live from it. And the second chapter is, once you've done that, all the things, not the second chapter, second part is what you end up doing with it. I'm a huge advocate of play, which I could also talk about. So that's the fourth chapter and fourth week. Fifth is finding your true north, and the sixth is rewriting your story, but rewriting a story from your core. First, finding your raison d'etre, your reason for living, and then living from it. So how's that for a very long answer to your short question?
And no, it was beautiful. And yeah, and how important it is to just even begin with the decluttering, I think is a huge piece. And sometimes that ends up taking a while. I don't think it's just a long weekend, right? Where you can envision like cleaning out your closet. Oh, okay, I'm ready for the next season. It's like, no, there are layers to it. And so to call that process out, it sounds like in such a comprehensive way that you have in your book, it's a very beautiful process. What would be the definition? Like, how do you discern or talk about soul being different from intuition?
That's really good. I don't actually believe that soul is really different from intuition, in that I believe that intuition springs from one soul. I think intuition and fear are often very hard to distinguish. Am I beginning to panic about something, or is this my gut saying don't do this? So I think that is worth finding out. And the way I know that is, frankly, depending on how fast my heart is racing. If it's racing a lot, it's the amygdala speaking like, you're in danger even if you're not in danger. If it comes from a place of resolve that feels absolute, like a hell yes, that's when I know that it is my gut. Like, you just know it. It feels right. Whether it's, a decision you need to make, or a new person who's walked into your life, you just have that, you just know. I also think that there's a difference between spirit and soul, and I talk about that in the book as well. And I think that the whole idea of spirituality, I think overall needs to be defined, and I could talk about that, but the soul is uniquely ours. Like you have a soul that 8 billion plus other people on this planet do not have. Your soul is uniquely yours. No one else has it. Whereas in spirit is the collective energy, whatever you want to call it, higher power, God, Jesus, Allah, whatever it is what it's the universal energies. And spirituality truly is the dance between one soul and the spirit. That is it.
Ooh, I love that definition of spirituality. For me, spirituality is this just connection to energy that's all around us in Mother Nature, in the air. We can feel the energy off of each other, like that sense of just vibration. And and so I love that idea of like our inner soul dancing with this external energy that's swirling around us.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just this sort of, and there's all sorts of studies also, at the risk of sounding really woo woo, but there are all sorts of studies that are molecular makeup is no different than the stars. So we are literally stardust. And
Mhm.
I don't make this poop up. I mean, you could Google it, then it's like, huh, okay, well, that's pretty amazing. What else is going on?
Right. And it's like, oh yeah, we're not that much different from all these other living beings, trees and, and other humans to really feel that sense of all connectedness. You talked about the heart a moment ago and
Mhm.
and cleansing the heart, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what that means for you.
So the heart, I, I think that we often assign the wrong tasks to our different body parts. It's not even body parts because, like, is it truly the heart that feels, or is it just pumping blood through your veins, or is it the mind that truly thinks? So the mind, it actually is. Um, but we make a lot of decisions that should be rational and we make it emotionally. I mean, they say that the majority of um, decisions are emotional, but we mix it up. Something that really needs to be uh, thought out rationally should not be something that we decide, spur of the moment, or something that really is emotional and we try to deal with it rationally. And the heart is truly your inner child. It's your puppy. All the heart wants is to be loved, to be cared for, to be seen, to be acknowledged. That is it. Just love it, give it. But we end up, like, follow your heart. Then, my heart wants ice cream right now and wants a nap and another hour and is pissed off about something else another hour. It's like, don't follow your heart. It's your soul that knows. Your heart, just be really, really good to it. And we often aren't, so there's this one section where I talk about the people that we have in our lives and what we should do with them. I'm very, very selective now of who I invite in. In my 20s, there was no way. I would just be like, oh, you want to party? Okay, let's go, you know? And I have this qualifier, I suppose, process that I call taser, shield, filter, or hug. So there are people who should not be in your life. They're super toxic and need to be tasered the F out of your life. That's just, and you need to make that choice and not feel guilty about it and do it. Wish them well. send them their way. Then there's shield, in that there's people, whether it be your mom who you can't really get along with, or an ex that you have to co-parent with, or a boss that you can't stand but you have to stay in that job. That's when you create major boundaries and you keep them. So that's the shield category. The filter category is like, just don't overshare with everybody. Not everybody's your people, so don't go and sit on the bus and, well, maybe to a stranger, but somebody who somewhat knows you, and you have that, you see that on social. I mean, sometimes I read it and I just cringe. I'm like, I don't know what else is going on in your life, so I'm getting like a tiny little bit, and I'm really sorry that your car broke down and your neighbor was being an ass, and but like, so that's filter. And then hug is your tribe. It's those people who belong at your table. And those people, like, they've earned a seat, as Brene Brown says. And and I have 6 people, and I have a lot of friends, but that's my inner tribe. And they can call me on stuff. And I call them regarding many things. And it could be at 2 a.m. where I'm just like, I need you right now. And they are there, and I'm there for them. So hope that answered her. So
Yeah.
that's the heart, is really being able to care for the heart and setting parameters. Oh, and then I also talk about feelings. There's we have, the basic feelings. And I talk about how the basic feelings act as like the RGB of your TV. Like, you need to be able to combine them to live a technicolor life. Otherwise, it would be super dull. So talk a little bit about that as well. But the heart is really, really important. It's just that we shouldn't task it with things that it can't do.
I love that call out of don't go follow your heart. Like where our heart is, it's like follow your soul, take care of your heart. And then the
Right.
many ways that we can take care of our heart. And I know for me, I had my first visceral awareness after I was diagnosed with cancer and going through chemotherapy. I was so sensitive physically and
Mhm.
emotionally and mentally that paying attention to people's energy was so essential, that there were certain friends that I was like, I do not like, I could feel my body cringe and kind of curl in protection mode. And I was like, I don't have the energy to do that right now. And that feels toxic in my space. And so I really had to cut some friends out. And that was a first awareness of like, oh, I have the power to pay attention to who do I want in my life and who do I not want in my life. And it can be hard to do that, but it's so um, empowering when you can articulate it and put it into practice. Do you feel like there's a way that your heart and your soul communicate? Or are they separate entities?
I think they're definitely separate entities, but I do think that there's a connectedness. There's some, I did the Hoffman process right before I met my wife. And like 5 months before, 5 or 6 months before. And it was perfect, because it was during that time that I really, really got that I am a tribe unto myself. And they talk about the quadrinity, which is a combination of your mind, your heart, your body, and your soul. And and I fully believe that you need all to feel truly fulfilled, and they have to partner together. So the heart and soul are always talking with one another, as I believe the heart and mind are very much so. And the heart really needs to push back on the mind whenever needed. And the mind needs to trust the heart to lead at times when mine needs to shut the F up. So they are definitely in partnership with one another, but I do think that they are different entities within us. I mean, if you think about the tribe of us, then there you are with your heart, your mind, your soul, and your body.
The collective.
Hopefully, well, and hopefully connecting with spirit or your higher power and such. So,
Mm,
which
mhm.
actually makes you feel kind of like, okay, like, wow, the tribe of me,
Yeah, the team's all here. I've got it inside of me.
Yeah.
After you go through the 6-week process, which I'm sure can take even more time again for people, but after you go through this beautiful process you've created and you feel more connected to your soul, how do we get to remember? Because it's so
Yeah.
hard in our world, right? As
Yeah.
these constant outputs and noise that we have in our society are pulling at us and distracting us. How do we remember our soul? Like, how do we keep that connection and keep strengthening it?
Another great question. So, spiritual wellness, spiritual health, like any other health wellness practice, needs to be practiced. So, and it's interesting because no one goes to the gym once a month or once every 3 months and be like, oh yeah, I got this. I now have the body that I want, right? They know for sure that you have to go and do the work and build those muscles. And it's the same exact with spirituality. It's the same if you go to a therapist. I don't know, you might go to therapist once and have an aha moment, but that's just the beginning. So it's in the practice of it. If you are, going to a weekend retreat or going to yoga classes and drinking your pressed juices, and again, all that is really great, but it doesn't add up to spiritual wellness. So spiritual wellness needs to be practiced as you're doing the dishes, as you're doing your homework, as you're sitting at your desk at work, as you're driving your kids to school and somebody cuts you off. That is spiritual health in practice. So practical spirituality, I suppose you could call it.
I love that you mentioned that because it is not a box to be checked off, right? And how I think we get conditioned to think, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym once and like get my 6-pack abs, right? and but that its consistency is the key. So to stay connected to our souls, we really have to put that intention and that time in to build that spiritual wellness practice.
Well, and I surmise also, it took me obviously longer than the 6 weeks, though I've done the process with quite a few people now, so I know that it works and they love it. And it isn't, again, the last thing I want is people to do these 6 weeks and be like, wow, I got spirituality down. It's a really good primer. It's a really good way to clear your slate and be on your way. And truly, after 6 months, I truly believe that you can redesign your life from a very different place if that's what you choose to do. But it truly is in the the day-to-day practice of it that you reap the benefits. And that just is unending. It's a journey. We joke about, it's not a journey from here to there, it's a journey from here to here, because every day is a journey, which doesn't mean that you are grasping for new things. It just means that you are ever evolving and unfolding, which is gorgeous.
Yeah. I want to ask about play because I think a
Yeah.
lot of my listeners
Yeah.
can relate to this. And I know you brought this up earlier. My listeners tend to be very driven, very ambitious, go getters. And
Mm-hmm.
so the idea of play sounds delightful, but probably is hard to think about even what does that mean or what does that look like as an adult? Or there's maybe too much ego that kind of gets in the way of feeling like they have full permission to play and be silly and not kind of hold the adult to-do list in their forefront.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk to us about play. How can we play more? I know I could use this right now too. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So, yeah, they say, I'm trying to remember who said the quote, but um, say that the opposite of play isn't boredom, it's depression. And I really believe that. I think that one of the best ways of, once you've gotten in touch with your inner core, your inner star, what I call your soul, the easiest way of letting it fly free is to play. And somewhere along the line, we stop playing, right? We're kids and we're out there, we're in the playground, we have, and it is completely there's no goals attached to it. I mean, I was watching as we were in Florida recently, and I'm watching these kids, and I just wanted to, without, freaking out their parents, and I didn't do it, but I wanted to go in there and play with them because they were so into it and they were methodical and they each had different roles and all of that. And they were connected. And I was just like, oh my God, this is it right here. I actually took a photo of them because I was just like, I need to look at it. And play means different things to different people. In the book, I explained there's actually 8 different personality types, 8 different play personality types. So what might be play to you may not be play for me. What we've considered play, because it's considered childish and all of that, how we play is usually like go to bars and meet up with friends, which includes alcohol, or go to Vegas, and whatever we do in Vegas has to stay in Vegas. That's not the play that I'm talking about. I mean literally getting on a swing, skipping down the street. One of my biggest forms of play, which also ends up being meditative for me, depending on how I do it and when I do it, is dancing. Like I put on house music or disco and dance my butt off. I used to do that when I was running a series for Discovery. I used to do that as well. We'd had a disco ball, and if it became too stressful, I would make everybody stop, put on disco, and just feel out the vibes. And I'm like, and I would
So
look at them.
good.
I'm like, feeling feeling the shift. And then when I felt it, and it would last, sometimes it would last like 20 minutes, sometimes it would be less, and it would shift the entire energy. So I actually believe that we have so much stress and strife in our lives because we don't allow ourselves to play. And I talk about all the various different forms of playing depending on your personality type. And it could be a combination of a few. And there's ones that just don't resonate. Like there's one that's called the director, which is, I mean, I'm very good at taking care of things and to-do lists and all of that, but that's not a play for me. Whereas in some people actually really enjoy like organizing events and such, that sets them free. So you have to kind of you customize, but the biggest factor is that you do play for play's sake, not because, oh well, I need to go for a run anyway, so I'm gonna make that my play activity. No, you're running, right? You're not
So
playing.
enjoy the run. Yeah. Enjoy the
Right,
movement. Yeah.
right. So yeah, so I really I feel like I'm at a place in my life where I can't afford not to play, because it is so tied in with my vitality. And I frankly feel like it makes me more productive. It makes me feel more connected. And I love it too. I will literally, there's a swing that is so gorgeous. I live in Marin, and it's in Tiburon, and it's overlooking the bay. And it is, you swing and you basically go into the bay. You come back, and it is, oh,
So
I so
beautiful.
love it. So love it. But I used to play with my kids. Now they're teens, and you know, it's a different world. I play with my puppy, I play with my wife all the time. And I mean, she's like badass wine executive, and we can play at a moment's notice.
I appreciate you highlighting the vitalityness of play because it is like in essence, right? When you see animals in nature playing, like it's
Mm,
part of just that sense of connection with living beings and how our minds hijack us away from that and put us in the to-do list or put us in the productivity assembly line and take us out of that. You're inspiring me to go play this afternoon. The sun is out here in Seattle.
do.
And Shirin, this has been so amazing. Where can people learn more about you and stay connected to your work and your book?
Well, thank you for asking. So the book comes out June 20th, but it is available for pre-order now. And it's on a variety of platforms. Easiest is probably Amazon. Barnes and Noble has it, and once it does come out, it'll be in a lot of independent bookstores, which makes me very happy. All of my social presence relating to the book and transformational work is Shirin Etessam, just my name, my first name and my last name, ShirinEtessam.com. My TikTok and Instagram are also Shirin Etessam. So
Amazing. Well, congratulations. I can't wait for this book to be out in people's hands and hearts, and most importantly, souls. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
thank you so much for having me on your show.
I welcome you to just take a breath with me in this moment. Let all of that amazing insight and wisdom just settle. And I welcome you to check in with yourself and notice, what am I most curious to sit with and explore? Maybe it's to play more and explore, what does play look like and feel like for me? We have some fun journal prompts and centered in the city around the theme of play. If you want to check them out, I'll link those in the show notes and you can sign up for your 7-day free trial and have access to them. Or are you noticing, I'm really curious to do some decluttering because I'm feeling off track? Or maybe you're noticing, I want to offer myself more pauses in my day to get out of my head and enter into more of my heart and connect to my soul. So whatever's resonating with you, I welcome you to just notice it with a lot of curiosity. And if you're interested in taking some action, maybe you want to buy Shirin's book and begin the 6-week guided exploration. Maybe you want to sign up for Centered in the City and have some support integrating some mindfulness practices into your daily life. Or maybe you're wanting some more one-on-one transformational support on decluttering your life and really connecting to your bliss and your soul. You can sign up for a one-on-one coaching connection call. We can explore what living your most authentic and grounded life gets to look like. So if you're interested, all of those resources will be in the show notes. And thank you, as always, for being here. Until next time, stay centered.